What would change your life? If you came back from the dead one day, would it change the way you look at everything in this world? Today, I want to share with you the remarkable journey of Cordelia Winchester, a woman whose near-death experience reshaped her understanding of life, death, and the very essence of existence. As a 32-year-old trauma nurse working in one of Seattle's busiest hospitals, Cordelia had spent years confronting the raw realities of life and death. Her job required a hardened scientific approach to dealing with trauma and loss, one that left little room for abstract beliefs or the idea of an afterlife. Cordelia believed that death was just the inevitable end of life, and anything beyond it was mere speculation. But one ordinary Tuesday morning, while attending to a patient, Cordelia's own life was suddenly and unexpectedly threatened. What followed, an event that lasted mere minutes, was to change everything she thought she knew about the world. In a shocking moment of intense pain, Cordelia collapsed, experiencing what she would later realize was a massive pulmonary embolism. Her heart stopped for 5 minutes, but during this time, Cordelia experienced something beyond the realm of science, a profound spiritual journey that would forever alter her views. Her story is one of deep transformation, moving from fear and skepticism to peace, understanding, and an undeniable certainty about the nature of existence. What she encountered during her near-death experience was not only a glimpse into the afterlife, but also a powerful message about love, healing, and our connection to one another. Join me as we explore Cordelia's life-changing experience, where the boundaries between life and death blurred, and a new understanding of the universe emerged. Through her eyes, we will learn that love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that the journey of the soul is one of infinite growth and healing. For years, Cordelia Winchester had been immersed in the chaos of life and death situations as a nurse. She had witnessed countless patients pass away, often in the most harrowing and dramatic ways. Over time, Cordelia became accustomed to death, viewing it as just another part of life, predictable, inevitable, and ultimately natural. It was her job to face it every day, and she had built a tough, scientific mindset to deal with the harsh realities of her profession. As a trauma nurse, Cordelia had been trained to rely on facts, data, and the logic of medical science. She was a practical woman, someone who trusted what could be measured, observed, and tested. She had little patience for abstract or unprovable ideas. The concept of an afterlife, the notion that there could be something more beyond the physical body, was simply not something she believed in. She considered near-death experiences to be nothing more than the hallucinations or confused musings of a dying brain. Fascinating, perhaps, but irrelevant and scientifically unproven. In her world, what mattered was what could be seen, tested, and understood. Despite her rational views, Cordelia's own near-death experience would shatter everything she thought she knew about life, death, and existence. What she would go through next was beyond the limits of scientific understanding and would challenge the very foundation of her beliefs. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday. Cordelia had been working a shift at Harborview Medical Center, a hospital known for handling some of the most critical and complex medical cases in Seattle. The emergency department was unusually quiet for a morning, a peaceful calm hanging in the air, almost like the quiet before a storm. It felt like just another day, routine, uneventful, and familiar. But for Cordelia, everything was about to change in an instant. She had been checking on a teenage patient, a young girl who had broken her arm. The monitors were quietly beeping. Sunlight filtered through the windows, and everything felt serene and safe. But in the blink of an eye, Cordelia felt something she had never imagined she would experience: an excruciating sudden pain in her chest. It felt like a vice was tightening around her ribcage, squeezing the life out of her. The intensity of the pain was unlike anything she had ever encountered. For a split second, her mind raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She knew something was terribly wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. Desperately, she reached out for the wall, hoping to steady herself, but her body betrayed her. The next thing she knew, everything went black. In those final moments, as her body collapsed on the floor, Cordelia had no idea that what she was experiencing was a life-threatening event. She was in the middle of a massive pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that had traveled to her lungs, blocking the flow of oxygen to her heart. Her heart stopped beating. For almost 5 minutes, she was clinically dead. But during those 5 minutes, Cordelia would experience something so real, so vivid, and so profound that it would forever change her understanding of life, death, and the universe itself. What happened in those moments would be a journey from fear to peace, from skepticism to absolute certainty about the nature of existence. The events that followed were not just a near-death experience for Cordelia. They were the beginning of her profound spiritual awakening, one that would forever challenge everything she thought she knew. What unfolded after her collapse would not only be a journey into the afterlife, but also a journey into the heart of what it means to truly live. Cordelia had been on shift since 6 a.m., checking on patients and attending to the busy needs of the emergency room. The time was around 10:30 a.m. when she was attending to a teenage patient with a broken arm. The sound of beeping monitors and the warm sunlight streaming through the windows created an almost serene atmosphere in the room. Everything felt routine, familiar, and safe. Then, without any warning, her entire world turned upside down. Cordelia felt an immense crushing pain in her chest, as if it were being squeezed in a vice. The pain was sharp, intense, and overwhelming, like nothing she had ever experienced. Her first instinct was to reach out and grab the wall to steady herself, but her hand never made contact. In that moment, she collapsed to the floor. Her vision blurred, and everything around her went dark. The last thing she could recall was her patient, screaming for help as she fell unconscious. What Cordelia didn't know at the time was that she had suffered a massive pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that had traveled to her lungs and blocked the flow of oxygen to her heart. Her heart stopped beating for almost 5 minutes, and she was clinically dead during that time. But what happened during those 5 minutes was an experience so profound and vivid that it would forever transform her understanding of life, death, and the universe. What felt like an eternity passed before Cordelia's consciousness began to stir, gradually returning to her. The first sensation she experienced was something utterly unfamiliar, an eerie, weightless feeling, as though she were floating. At first, it was hard for her to comprehend what was happening. She realized, with a strange clarity, that she wasn't in her body anymore. Instead, she was somehow suspended above it, observing it from an outside perspective, as though her consciousness had detached and was now hovering in the space above her physical form. Looking down at her own body, Cordelia saw an image that filled her with both wonder and deep unease. There she was, lying motionless on the hospital floor. Her body crumpled in a way that suggested life had completely left it. The scene around her was chaotic. People she had worked with for years, people she knew intimately, were frantically trying to save her. Her colleagues, the people who had seen her through countless high-pressure moments, were now fighting to keep her alive. Dr. Martinez, the seasoned chief of emergency medicine, was performing chest compressions with steady, practiced hands. His expression was grim, filled with the determination and focus that only comes from years of experience in moments like this. Nearby, Sarah, Cordelia's best friend and fellow nurse, was preparing the defibrillator. Her hands moved quickly, efficiently, but her face was streaked with tears, her eyes wide with worry. The emotional tension in the room was palpable. Sarah was visibly shaken, her every movement filled with urgency, but the tears running down her cheeks showed the deeper fear she was trying to hide. Cordelia wanted so desperately to call out to them, to tell them that she was okay, that the pain had vanished, that she was experiencing something completely different now. She wanted to assure Sarah, her best friend, that she felt no fear, that a profound peace had washed over her. But no words came, no sounds. It was as though she were invisible, unable to communicate with the living. All she could do was watch helplessly as they worked tirelessly, their faces etched with concern as they tried to revive her. What struck Cordelia most during those moments, as she hovered outside her body and watched the scene unfold below, was the absence of fear. Despite seeing her lifeless body on the cold hospital floor, there was no panic in her, no anxiety, no terror. The instinctive human response to seeing one's own body in such a state should have been overwhelming fear, but instead, she felt an unexpected sense of calm. There was no rush of panic or distress, no surge of, "I'm not ready to die." Instead, there was an overwhelming sense of peace, an undeniable serenity that enveloped her in a way she had never known before. In that space between life and death, there was no rushing tide of worries about the future or the past. All the anxiety that had once defined her existence, all the stress she had carried throughout her life, simply melted away. It was as though, in that moment, all the burdens that had weighed her down, all the fears and doubts she had accumulated over the years, evaporated into nothingness. She realized, with a clarity she had never experienced while alive, that she was no longer tethered to the worries of her everyday life. There was only peace, an unshakable calm that felt like a warm embrace. Cordelia felt a profound sense of rightness, as though everything in the universe had suddenly clicked into place, and she was exactly where she was meant to be, even if that place was somewhere beyond the physical world. There was no fear of what was happening, no dread of the unknown. In fact, it felt as though this state of being, this space between life and death, was the truest, most peaceful existence she could ever know. For the first time, Cordelia realized that death was not the terrifying, final experience she had always imagined it to be. Instead, it was a transition, a shift from one form of being to another, and she was completely at peace with it. This moment, this glimpse beyond her physical self, would change Cordelia forever. What began as an emergency situation, full of panic and chaos, became for her a moment of deep inner peace, a profound understanding of her own existence. She had crossed over into a realm where the physical world, with all its worries and fears, no longer held sway. And in that space, she felt completely whole. Then everything changed. Cordelia felt herself being pulled gently but irresistibly into a tunnel of brilliant light. The movement was faster than anything she had ever experienced, yet it felt natural and effortless, as if she were being carried by an unseen force. The light grew brighter and more intense as she traveled, but instead of blinding her, it felt warm, welcoming, and comforting, like a homecoming after a long journey. As Cordelia passed through the tunnel, her consciousness expanded. Her thoughts became clearer, sharper, and more profound. It was as though everything she had struggled to understand in life suddenly made perfect sense. Questions she had pondered for years were answered, and realizations flooded her mind. It felt as though the veil that had clouded her perception throughout her life had been lifted, allowing her to see the world in a completely new way. When she finally emerged from the tunnel, she found herself in a realm that was beyond anything she had ever imagined. The colors around her were unlike anything she had ever seen on Earth, vibrant and glowing with an otherworldly radiance. The air was filled with a soft, melodic music, a harmony so pure and beautiful that it brought tears to her eyes. But these weren't physical tears. Cordelia quickly realized that she no longer had a physical body. Instead, she existed as pure consciousness, pure awareness, detached from the limitations of her earthly form. It was then that she saw him, Jesus. But he was not the figure that Cordelia had been taught to imagine. His presence was not like the depictions she had seen in religious art. Instead, he radiated an intense, loving energy that enveloped her completely. His light was brighter than the tunnel, yet Cordelia could look directly at him without being blinded or overwhelmed. His eyes conveyed the wisdom of the universe, and they also held an infinite compassion that made Cordelia feel fully known, fully understood, and completely loved. Without speaking a word, Jesus communicated directly to her consciousness. His message was simple, yet profound. Cordelia, there's something you need to see. Jesus gestured, and the realm around them shifted, revealing a vast, extraordinary place that Cordelia could only describe as the third heaven, a transitional realm for souls right after death. This was not the final heaven, but a place where souls go to heal, learn, and prepare for what comes next in their journey. The third heaven existed in multiple dimensions at once, overlapping and interweaving in ways that defied human understanding. Jesus showed Cordelia several different areas within this realm, each serving a specific purpose for the souls who inhabited them. The first place he revealed was called the Gardens of Peace, a tranquil space bathed in golden light. Souls here rested in a state of profound contentment, basking in peace and serenity. Many of the souls were engaged in meditation or prayer, while others simply absorbed the beauty of their surroundings. These souls were those who had lived lives filled with love, kindness, and service to others. Now, in the Gardens of Peace, they were resting and growing in understanding as they prepared for their next step in the cosmic journey. Jesus explained that the brightness of the souls in the gardens reflected how much divine love they had allowed to flow through them during their earthly lives. As they continued to grow and evolve, they would become brighter, more luminous, reflecting an even deeper connection to divine love. Next, Jesus showed her the halls of learning, where souls were actively engaged in divine learning. In this space, souls underwent life reviews, not as judgments, but as opportunities for growth and enlightenment. In these reviews, souls saw every action they had taken in their earthly lives, not just from their own perspective, but from the perspective of everyone they had impacted. Every kind word, every selfless action had created ripples of light throughout the universe. Similarly, every harsh word or selfish deed had cast ripples of darkness. This process was not about punishment, Jesus emphasized, but about understanding, healing, and evolving. Souls were given the opportunity to learn from their mistakes, to understand the impact of their actions on others, and to grow in love, wisdom, and compassion. One of the most profound experiences Cordelia had in the third heaven was in the healing chambers, a realm where souls suffering from deep trauma, fear, anger, addiction, or regret were lovingly and gently healed by beings of pure light. These beings, with their serene and powerful presence, helped souls release the pain and emotional scars that had weighed them down in their earthly lives. Cordelia observed that no soul was beyond redemption, no matter how troubled or dark their past had been. Even those who had lived in deep pain or anger had the potential to heal and transform. The powerful force of love, pure, divine, and infinite, could reach into the deepest wounds, mending them and bringing profound change. As she watched, Cordelia saw how love played a crucial role in this healing process. The healing chambers were places of deep restoration, where souls were gently guided toward releasing their pain and embracing peace. The love that surrounded them was so pure that it allowed even the most damaged parts of the soul to heal. In this space, Cordelia realized the true power of love, how it could reach beyond the physical realm to heal not only the body, but also the heart and spirit. While observing this realm, Cordelia witnessed another beautiful aspect of the afterlife. She saw that many souls, now healed and filled with divine light, were taking on the role of guardian angels. These souls, now at peace and enlightened, were helping and guiding those still living on earth. Among them, Cordelia recognized her own grandmother, who had passed away years earlier. Her grandmother, whom Cordelia had always loved and admired, was sending waves of love and guidance to their family. This powerful moment brought Cordelia to tears as she realized how her grandmother had never truly left them. She had continued to provide comfort and support from beyond the physical world, offering her love at moments when it was needed most. As Jesus guided Cordelia deeper into the realms of the afterlife, she began to understand a profound truth, one that resonated deeply within her soul. The greatest illusion of all was the illusion of separation. In the grand design of the universe, all beings, all souls, were intricately connected in ways far beyond human understanding. The love we give to others is, in essence, the love we give to ourselves, and the harm we inflict on others, we ultimately inflict on ourselves. Cordelia began to see the vast ripple effect of every act of love. She understood that love, when it is given freely, sends out waves of light that ripple across all dimensions of existence, healing, uplifting, and uniting everything they touch. Conversely, when fear or hatred is unleashed into the world, it creates darkness. However, Cordelia realized that even this darkness would eventually be transformed by love. For love is the only force strong enough to bring light into the darkest places. The ultimate purpose of every soul's journey is to transform that darkness into light, fear into love, and separation into unity. Jesus also shared a powerful vision of the future of humanity with Cordelia. He showed her two possible paths, one in which humanity embraced love, unity, and peace, and another in which it succumbed to hatred, division, and destruction. The future of humankind, Jesus explained, depended on the choices humanity made in the coming years. There was a choice, a conscious decision to embrace love as the guiding force. Humanity's path could be shaped by deliberate, thoughtful choices to act with love in every moment. These choices, Jesus emphasized, would determine the fate of humanity and the world itself. Before Cordelia left the third heaven, Jesus gave her a clear mission to share the profound truth she had experienced with the world. She now understood that death is not the end of existence, but rather the beginning of an ongoing, magnificent journey. Love, she realized, was the most powerful force in the universe. It is the thread that connects everything, the driving force behind all of creation. When Cordelia awoke in the hospital, though she was in physical pain, her heart was filled with an immense sense of peace. She had been given a second chance, not just at life, but at truly living with purpose, love, and gratitude. She knew she had glimpsed the ultimate truth, and now it was her mission to share this truth with others. She understood that the power of love could heal not only individuals, but also entire communities and the world itself. Since her near-death experience, Cordelia has dedicated herself to spreading the message of love she received. She knows now that love is the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to the world. It is a love that transcends fear, anger, and division. A love that heals, transforms, and unites. Every thought, word, and action creates a ripple in the universe. And through love, Cordelia believes we have the power to heal, grow, and transform both ourselves and the world around us. For Cordelia, life is no longer just about surviving. It is about living with purpose, embracing love, and helping others understand that the journey of the soul is one of infinite potential, healing, and growth. Most of all, she has come to know that love is the force that moves the universe, and it is the key to everything. She now lives her life fully, in alignment with this truth, dedicated to spreading the message of love to every corner of the world. Cordelia's story reminds us of the profound values of life. May it inspire both you and me to live fully, embracing every moment and sharing that spirit with everyone around us.